welcome to A Woman's Brew, where women talk about beer. In today's episode, we're joined by a very special visitor from across the pond. I'm Joanne, and this is Tori.
Hello.
And we're two beer-loving women on a mission to get more people drinking and talking about great beer. Come join us.
So, today, we have a special guest. My mum.
do.
Hello.
Sharon. She's on with us today, because we were recording anyways, and we thought this would be interesting, an interesting concept for an episode. So, she's not, I'll preface this, I'll let you preface this. You're not a massive drinker, are you? You don't really drink?
At all.
At all.
At all.
To be fair, you occasionally will have a sip of something that if I'm having it, or you'll have, she says she doesn't drink at all. We went out to dinner the other night, and she was like, oh, can I get, because she can't have wine.
I can't have anything that's
It's like wine.
acidic.
Okay.
Wine and vodka. She's like, I can't have those
No.
things. So not this one.
No.
You can't have wine and vodka.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was like, we went out to the smokehouse, and she was like, oh, what bourbon's there? And she's like, can I have a Maker's Mark? And the guy, literally, did you notice? The guy came over, and he was like, who's the maker? He's like, he said to Dad.
He was the Maker's Mark.
This is
Casual
perfect for our
sexism.
episode, right? Casual sexism. He literally came over, and he was like, Maker's Mark.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, it's for her. And they were like, oh,
amazing.
okay.
Amazing.
And they gave her it. And what I also noticed, I don't know if you noticed this as well, is you were like, oh, what? You were asking them about something about what they had for drinks, and they was like, do you want a wine menu? And she was like, no. And she's like, I can't have wine. And they were like, oh, okay.
Oh no, a woman who can't have wine? What do you drink?
It was really
All the other
funny.
things.
Because I noticed immediately, she was like, oh, I don't know what I want. And then she's like, oh, about this. And they were like, wine menu? And she was like, no. And then she was like, bourbon. I'll have Maker's Mark.
Well, except champagne. I'll have champagne.
But you don't have a lot of it,
Prosecco.
yeah. She'll have. You can have some of that. You just can't. You don't have a lot of it, do you?
I can't drink a lot of any of it
Of
medical reasons, but
also
every once in a while I like some of it. The cocoa with
Baileys.
Baileys.
So bonfire night
yeah.
last night.
Yeah.
We
was
had hot
delicious.
chocolate and Baileys. I was
Delish.
getting one, and I was like, find out if my mum wants one,
Yeah.
and then she was like, yes, I will
Delish.
partake.
Yeah.
But it's moderation, isn't it? So it's like you'll have a cocktail when we go out,
Maybe.
or sips of a beer or something like that.
Yeah. Soda water gets boring after a while.
Yeah.
It does, but I thought it was really funny that anytime she's ordered like a bourbon, I didn't expect that when you were like, yeah, I'll have a Maker's Mark. Neat.
Well, and I did. I remember I said to him, Maker's Mark. He said, how do you want it? I said, neat. And then the bartender had to come back and ask, do you really want that neat?
Yes.
And I said, yes. I said, can you chill it first?
Because I think
and he didn't know what I meant.
So I think he was trying to find out if whoever was drinking it wanted it on the rocks or neat, and it was like, and then he said to my dad, do you want it like on the rocks or neat? And then he was like, it's not for me, it's for her. And then he was like, oh, and you could tell that he was like, oh, he just didn't expect it. And then he was like, do you want it chilled? Or do you want it on the rock? Like it wasn't rude.
No,
it was like, do you want it on the rocks? And
Yeah.
she was like, no, neat. And she's like, but if you could chill the glass, maybe chill it, but like I don't want ice in it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay. And then he
Oh, dear.
walked off. I just thought that was really funny.
he was kind. Then the woman who brought it over, I think it was the woman who brought it over, and she's the one who asked who the bourbon was for, and she went to hand it to Dad, and he said, no, it's for
I
her.
think multiple people have come over
Right. I
and
don't think I want to hang
assumed.
anybody.
Assumed it was for the
Yeah.
man,
And it wasn't like, again, it was it was not intentional. I think they were just,
No.
even like, to be fair, unconscious bias. I think if I walked over to a table and it was like bourbon neat, I would have been like, cool, it's a 50-50 here. There's like 2 men and 2 women, and you just go, oh, but this
Except
guy's got it.
everybody else had their drink.
Yeah, it's true. That is also true.
There we go.
To be fair, I say that I'm just giving people the benefit of the doubt, being nice, because I probably would have come over to go, who's ordered this?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
well.
But anyways, it was funny.
Water over the bridge.
Water over the bridge. At the time, no one said anything either. This is the first time that I think I've ignored, I've said it to you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything, so I'm not going to put ideas in people's heads. But yeah, so we thought we'd ask you some questions about your relationship with beer. But first, do you want to try some of our beer, the one that Joe and I made?
Course.
So, Brave Noise. Everyone's heard us talk about this, like two are blue in the face. I'm sure
we're blue in the face.
And we quite literally are. Emma, Ollie, we love you. They're probably Ollie's probably listening to this now. At least Emma will be listening to it. So you can see my mum reacting to it. Which, to be fair, let's be honest, is still within the best before date because it's November of this year, so we're good. Can you spot Joe and I's faces? I'll give you. Let's see if you can do it.
I have to put my glasses. I didn't really want to do it.
Let's see if you know your actual child. Which one is me? You got all the faces. All the faces.
This one.
No, that was Joe.
Okay. Well, it's not that one.
I mean, that one's Ollie. She's pointing to Ollie. He's beautiful in his own right. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
our faces are on a label. This has been sold in stores. How
That's
cool is that?
exciting, honey.
I know.
Very exciting.
And also, for anyone that doesn't believe that I'm American, this is thank you.
She used to speak like this. Now she speaks like that.
So basically, for anyone that's like, let me see your passport. There's been people at work that he was like joking with me. He was like, I don't believe I need to see your passport. And I showed him a passport. Still don't believe it.
He still doesn't believe it. I mean, that's like equivocal evidence.
So we'll try some of this. See if you like it. I'll only give you a little bit. You don't have to have that much of it.
I think he poured for my bourbon the other night. Literally covered the bottom of the glass. I mean, in fairness, he asked me if I wanted one shot or two.
Yeah.
And 2 shots.
And to be fair, your reaction was, oh, I don't want a double.
Well, because a double at home would have been like this.
Yeah.
Meanway, I got
I
my
didn't
dad a
know
double.
that a single here was like that.
I got my dad a double something, and he was like, "Oh, this is cute." I was like, "It's a double," and he's like, I was like, "We actually like."
There's actual measures.
To be fair, he's also used to at home.
Like just
he orders a drink, and people, when he goes into the same places that know him, they'll pour him like a big drink or whatever. So it's not a double, but it is a double.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Orange?
I mean, I would say that's not. Yeah, you could get orange in there.
Ooh, give me the hiccups.
Some kind of hot.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah,
This is great. Look at this. Yes,
Actually,
smells like really
grapefruit.
good.
Yes.
Yes, queen.
Cheers.
Cheers. You'll get more like. You should get like stone fruits, like peachiness as well a bit, and those ones. So yeah, it should be quite fruity. So from what it was, it's quite fruity, quite creamy. Very good.
Yummy.
Yay.
So when is it coming to America?
Unfortunately. I mean, there's probably lots of Brave Noises in America. There's a lot more Brave Noises in America. But as of the point of recording this, we've gone up the ranks and there is 13 breweries now. Woo! In the UK.
Awesome.
In the UK. Well, no, not for this, but have
made
made their own Brave Noise.
Yeah. Oh,
so Brave Noise.
This is that program you guys would do.
Yes, this is what we do.
To try to get new beer crafters.
It's inclusivity and equality within the brewing industry. So they all brew a same recipe. Well, it doesn't have to be the same recipe, but the same base recipe called Brave Noise. And they have to write their code of conduct to show that they're doing all the right things and that they're decent people and they care about their employees and their customers and everything else like that. So there's 13 breweries that have now signed up. So happy days. We like that. That's good.
We do.
But this is not a Brave Noise episode.
No.
I'm wearing my Curvin shirt and you've got
I've
a
got a
Miracle
Miracle one on, so that's good.
Team Brave Noise actually,
because
our charity went to Coven Brewsters
Yeah.
to help fund wellness officers, so that beer festivals would have wellness officers there. So if anyone felt uncomfortable, unsafe, they needed an alibi, they could, a witness for something, they could go and they could have. I don't know. Alibi is the wrong word. Alibi is not what I meant. What I meant was if they needed something that was like a witness is what I meant to anything that's happened. They could go and they could kind of have that conversation and they'd be in a safe space, and even if they just needed to decompress, they've got that. So Pip's doing like amazing stuff. So but again, it's not about Brave Noise.
So
it's always about Brave
proceeds
Noise.
go to.
So it's not all the proceeds. Well,
each brewer that brews it picks their own charity, and
they can all pick different amounts basically. It's kind of whatever the brewery can afford to give as a charitable donation.
Mm-hmm.
Is
So
what
you
it is.
did it in concert with a brewery that you like.
Yes. Mirakai invited us and some other people to go. It's all you see the lovely faces on,
Well, lovely
on the can.
people. Yeah.
That's Emma and
I'm
that's
going to
Ollie.
take a picture of that.
I mean, you can do.
Or I
So,
can
yeah.
bring an empty can back.
I've got
to
a
your
can to
sisters.
give. I've got a full can to bring back to my sisters.
Yes.
So yeah, those are the brewery team. Emma and Emily.
And who are those people on the other side?
There's lots of other people. We'll tell you about them later.
Okay.
Tell you about all them later.
Okay.
There are lots of wonderful people. But yeah, so I guess my first question for you, as a person that is, I guess maybe first explain your history of like your relationship with beer, or a non-existent relationship with beer.
So I never drank beer because anytime I ever had it, it was warm, and it was gross. and then I don't know. I guess when I was much older, actually, didn't I? I had Stella when I was here, when we went to Ascot.
Oh yeah, because I think that was like the only beer they were really serving.
Yeah, but I had started.
We stole the Stella glasses.
Yeah, didn't steal them. They gave them to us. They were plastic. Give me a break. The Stella. I started drinking Stella because hard alcohol. I couldn't drink hard alcohol at all. So, and I like Stella. It was a good beer, and then it just didn't sit right. And even when I took you guys, when you were at home last year and we went axe throwing and beer tasting, great combination.
So we took To be fair, you planned like a really cool night that for me and my two sisters. So we went to
dinner first.
Bone Up. Yeah, we went to dinner first. Mm-hmm. And then we went to Bone Up Brewery in Everett. And then we went to Night Shift Brewery.
No,
we went to Night Shift. So we went to Bone Up Brewery first, which was like, do you remember that grisette? I think it was like a grisette, and it was like a gourd and everything else that I said I was bringing back that we could try at some point. So I still got that. I got a nice flannel from there. They had like really, really interesting beers as far as kind of what a lot of other breweries that I personally had already known of were doing, like lots of hoppy stuff, and they did like grisettes and like barrel aged stuff and like just like really, really a little bit more European influence, I think, on some of the stuff they were doing, which was really cool. So we went there, but then we didn't realise the window between when we were going to get there. Right. By the time we got there, and the axe throwing, it was quite a small window.
Oh, yeah. Was interesting.
Yeah.
So that was fun. But yeah, you tried some of the ones there.
The thing, I took a sip because the thing with, I don't know what it's like here, but beer tasting there, they don't have anything but beer and sometimes hard seltzer. And hard seltzer actually is more acidic.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even have that. So it was like, would you like a glass of tap water? And I was like, no, thank you. Not so much. I don't think I tried it.
You tried. I think you had some of the, there was like a chocolate orange one.
I think there was
I think you tried more of Marcy's because she got chocolate orange, because I hate chocolate orange. Yeah. So she had that, and I think you tried a bit of that. I think you just had a few sips, but...
And I was also the designated driver.
She was the designated driver, yes, because we were very safe. We went from there, then we went to Night Shift Brewery, and I think you had a beer there as well.
That's where I bought coffee, didn't I?
Yeah, we did. I bought coffee.
Not hot coffee.
Coffee beans.
Yeah.
That's where I bought coffee beans from. Really good coffee beans, actually, I'll have you know. But I think you had like a third there or something like that. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, you had something there and you tried little sips of gingerbread.
Yeah, I had a mouthful. It was, again, because if you're not a beer drinker, I don't like wasting things. Yeah. So I might take a sip and go, oh, this is not for me. Yeah. And now I've wasted it. So. Yeah. But it was interesting to go and see the process. And I'm very impressed at how much she's learned. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Because
there was one point in the tour, so we did a tour, so she, like, this was part of her plan of what she sort of took us on, was we did like a tour of Night Shift, and it was like, at one point, I think we were up by it was a bit where there was the
tanks.
The tanks, basically. And I think like they were talking about something, and one of my sisters asked a question, And you could tell that the girl that was doing the tour like didn't know the answer, but I didn't. I just like was like, oh. And then we left, and my sister was like, "Did you know the answer to that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "Why didn't you just say anything?" I was like, "Because that's a bit rude, isn't it?" And I was like, "A, I'm not like it's not my tour, A," and I was like, "B, the poor girl seems so nervous." I was like, I wasn't about to sit there and like rattle a cage and be like, well, actually. Like, I was like, no, it was like, let the poor girl like do her tour. She was very lovely. She was very nice. Lovely. But you could tell in that moment she was, because it was like a question that she's probably not normally asked. Yeah. Because I think it had something to do with like temperatures or something like that. I feel like something to do with the boiling and all those bits. And you could tell that she just went like, shit. And she probably knew the answer, but it's like in the moment she wasn't expecting that question. Yeah. And her mind probably went blank, and you could see she was like searching for the answer. And meanwhile, my sisters are like looking at me, and I was just like. And after they were like, "You knew," and I was like, "Well, yeah, but it's a bit rude to jump in, isn't it?" So I just let her kind of do it. The canning lines were really cool. Because they were like showing the whole canning line, and it was like
they're massive ones.
Massive, like went around the whole thing. And they were showing like the bit that they were like, we love when it's canning day, because basically they have a machine that's so smart that it goes into the quality control, and then the quality control says it's underfilled, and it chucks it off.
The underfills out.
Or it will say the label's less than perfect, or like the lid's less than perfect. Like there's some imperfection with it, and it will chuck it off the conveyor belt. To which the staff apparently just get
take them home.
All the extras because they can't sell them. Yeah. So it's wasted beer if they don't do it. So they're like, we love canning day. Canning day's great. So that was cool. Like how was it like with no interest in beer really to like go and walk through a brewery and see all that? It's also cool having a female.
Well,
I don't split that out there.
Clearly, it was more about being with the three of you and watching you interact and enjoy. So the fact that I was there was lovely. The fact that I couldn't get anything other than a glass of water.
That's like they have
not so much.
Like
no, I think over here we're a little bit better. Yeah. I mean, I think some tap rooms over there are fine, but it's also like over here you have like wine. I think over there you'll have wine and stuff, but where she doesn't drink wine, they don't really have liquor.
The one up in North Reading, Apothecary. Remember we went there. I took them for lunch there. They have a full bar.
Yeah.
Which means like, they then have sodas and tonic waters and club sodas.
Yeah. But I would kind of argue that Apothecary is more of a pub feel than it is, and like a restaurant pub, and they brew as well. Right. More than it is a tap room for a brewery. But if that makes sense.
Well, but it was also in its infancy.
Yes. Yeah.
I love your hair. It's beautiful. I just thought I wanted to say.
She's like, I just need to interject. Yes, queen. Cat. Oh yeah, she's been calling me a cat for like all week because she's like, you with your ADHD jumping all around. But then she'll be like, oh, I need help with this, and I'm like, okay. And then she's like, but also, what about this thing? And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, we've remembered to do this, and I'm like, one thing at a time. Literally, it's like you just called me a cat.
Because when you're old and you've been drinking, you forget what you want to say, so you say it in the moment when you think of it. You'll get that way someday. Please
like,
go on.
Hair, love it. So
that's the answer to the question.
Yes, that is the answer to that question. Do you remember? So we went to. My mum won something that was to go to like a bed and breakfast in Vermont. So we went to Vermont.
What does this have to do with beer though?
Because I'm getting there.
Okay.
We went to Vermont to this like and
Black Bear Inn.
Yeah, I was underage at the time as well. I was not 21, I was 18, I think. 17.
Yeah,
this is when you went to Magic Hat?
Yes!
Oh, yeah.
So this is where it comes back to beer. So I was like 16 or 17 at the time. We went to Magic Hat, and that was the place that had that big rusty tower outside. It was like the one place that we went. That was like.
And I thought it was a restaurant. Is that what happened?
I don't know. No, you were well into it, but you were getting literally outraged because my siblings. We went into this
who
tour.
are 10 years older and 12 years older, right?
Yeah, so we went into the brewery and we did like a brewery tour, and like you could go on a brewery tour as like an underage person, because I was like, especially because I was like with family, and they were like, do you want my sample? And they were like getting free samples, and like have the free samples, and she was like, no. And she was like looking around, and she'd be like, but okay, you can have the sample. And it was like, and then we did the whole tour. They're like, you can come on, you just can't drink. And they would be like, samples. And I was like, cool, cheers, guys. And then we ended up bringing a bunch of beer back. And she was like, no, you can't have that. But if they've given that to you, I guess they've given that to you. Do you remember doing that tour at all?
Very vaguely. I really remember more the ride home with the horses in the field and your sister mimicking the guy on the table.
Yeah, it was insane. It was like middle of like nowhere, Vermont, and we were like, where are we?
It was pitch dark.
It was
we went out at
very
night,
dark.
pitch dark, because there's no lights. It was a mountain, so
Yeah.
it was for skiing. And literally, they told us when we checked in, when we left the cabin we were in, to be careful because it was black bear season. They were getting ready to go and hibernate.
It's called the Black Bear Inn. I mean,
right. So they didn't sleep at all.
No.
Well, they told me they didn't sleep.
we also went to bed and no, I slept.
Yeah,
Me and Marcy shared a bed and spooned. She spooned me. That's when I woke up and there was an air conditioning on me, and I was like, oh my god, my neck is just. I was like, I'm paralysed. I was like, what is going on?
So dramatic.
It was
Really?
really bad.
It's a thing.
Don't sleep under an air conditioner. It's really bad. That has nothing to do with it. It was just about Magic Hat. That had to do with Magic Hat. Like, I just want to know if you remember that at all. But I obviously remember it more. And Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's was like...
Yeah, Ben and
But
Jerry's.
unfortunately, you can't go to Magic Hat anymore because it is
closed.
shut. They only have the New York location open.
Oh, it's too bad.
Sad times. Historically, I guess, like, when you were growing up, did women really drink beer? Because I know, like, over here, history-wise, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's only been within the last 100 years or so that women have even been able to kind of like go in a pub.
Yeah, to go into a pub. I mean, I think they
Buy
drank
them
beer.
like in their own.
Yeah,
space.
I think certain women drank beer. Like there would be women that were landlords of pubs, you know, landladies of pubs, so they would do it, and people working on farms would probably drink beer, you know, things like that. But yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Social pub culture.
Social pub culture, more men than women, definitely.
So I was raised in a house where it was Italian household, so typically you would think they would drink wine all the time, and we did not. My father didn't drink. He drank, but not
really.
Yeah.
really. Socially, and literally socially meant maybe one night a week.
Yeah.
But not even really.
But not even that. But my uncle, upstate New York, worked for... you'd have to go ask Papa the name of the beer. I can't remember.
You mean Dad?
Dad. Well, oh my God.
Sorry, she's been calling me my sister's name for days.
Yeah, for days.
I answer it though. I answer to it.
You do. But he worked for a brewery. Pabst.
Did
Pabst?
know
Yeah.
Pabst Blue Ribbon.
I think, no, maybe it wasn't Pabst. I don't know. If you want to go
PBR.
ask Dad, he'll know. I don't know. Anyway, it was made out of the Genesee. It was Genesee beer.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was made out of, they used water from the Genesee River, right? So when we would go there, they were German. It was my uncle was German. His wife was Italian. But they would have beer there. My mother's brother, and his wife was a Manhattan drinker. She was straight out Manhattan drinker. 4 o'clock cocktails, Manhattan.
I miss like old days of it's like, oh, it's cocktail hour.
Yeah, it's cocktail. She used to travel.
Happy hour.
She used to travel with a bar, and when she'd come to visit, she would have a leather case.
Yeah.
I want
she'd
that
say-
so
I've seen
bad.
She'd say, we're going to the hotel for cocktail hour, because she knew my parents didn't really drink. So before they would come for dinner at night, she would go back to the hotel, and she would have her Manhattan, or 2 or 3. But Uncle Bob drank beer. So every once in a while, Papa would have a beer to be social when we were there. But that's...
I don't ever remember my grandfather like having
No.
beer ever. My dad's dad, Bud Light.
Well, yeah.
But, like Bud and Bud Light,
But,
like full
but
stop.
that was a whole different...
But that was a different,
time.
different.
And Nana Vera never drank beer. She drank...
like whiskey.
She liked whiskey, yeah. She was a whiskey neat
Whiskey and
person.
water.
Yep.
Eggnog and whiskey and
So
water.
for me,
brandy.
beer was not something... The only thing it was to me was if company was coming, you might buy some if they drank beer. But even at that, their friends... I truly don't remember them drinking.
No, I think it was like we'd like barbecues and stuff. You'd buy like Budweiser and Bud Light because that's more likely to be. That's what like my dad's dad would drink and his brothers would drink, and that's like standard of what people. Would drink.
Yeah, that and.
If you're feeling extra fancy, maybe get a Sam Adams, but like
Well,
very
no,
rarely.
Sammy Adams didn't come on the market until what the
No, but
70s?
I'm talking about like when I was. I'm talking about like when I was a kid, like barbecue wise. Like if you were feeling extra fancy, you might get a Sam Adams.
No, you get I can see the Miller. Miller was a
fancy.
Quote, fancy beer. Miller High Life. Hello.
Living the high life.
Miller Banquet. Is it Miller Banquet? Coors Banquet? Which one's the banquet one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of them's the banquet.
So yeah, that was my only beer experience.
I guess like from your perspective of like growing up, was it like did you have a lot of friends that were women that drank, or like from your perspective was drinking more of a man's thing? Was it like did it not really matter?
No,
like,
my generation was essentially when we were born in the 50s, but our drinking age was the late 60s, early 70s.
was it 18
For everybody else, not for me.
Yeah, not for you.
Because my auntie and I were very sheltered. There was no, we didn't go out, sneak out, except for the one time. But anyway.
That was like auntie led.
Yeah, that was an auntie-led trip, yes. And so, and she'll deny it to this day. But I didn't go to drinking parties, but everybody in high school drank. I mean,
Was that like drinking age 18 at that point in time? Or was it
no, the drinking
still
age
21?
was 21, yeah. And so they would, just the way they do now, they'd go into their parents' refrigerators and take what they wanted, and they'd meet somewhere at a beach. I wasn't usually invited because I couldn't go, and even if I could have gone, I would have been too afraid to go. So, but there was no, in that age group, there was no difference, male, female.
General question.
Yeah.
What do you feel about people or teenagers drinking Sambuca straight?
What do I think about
Like,
it?
what are thoughts on teenagers drinking Sambuca straight?
Well, first of all, teenagers under the age of 21 should not be
no,
drinking
no, no, no,
at all.
But like, what are your thoughts on people drinking like shots of Sambuca?
I don't have a thought about it because
Why specifically Sambuca?
Because
there must be some. She's leading
right,
up
she's
to
leading into
something.
something.
You see what she's doing is leading me into a hole, and then when she gets me in the hole,
I'm not leading you into a hole. I'm asking you a genuine question because I've always, and I think you can vouch this. So over here, people just do like shots of Sambuca, or they'll just drink Sambuca neat, or like teenagers will be like, oh, I can't drink Sambuca because when I was a teenager, all I did was drink Sambuca. But from my childhood, knowing like Sambuca goes in coffee.
goes in coffee.
Sambuca goes in coffee.
Oh well,
we don't do
Italians.
that.
That's what I'm just. This is what I'm trying to get to this connection here.
When you drink espresso,
Nothing to do with
you
beer,
need something
but-
to sweeten it. So you put the Sambuca in the espresso or
Well, I've never
in your
heard of that.
coffee, and it sweetens the coffee.
Okay.
So yes, you do that. And
We don't do that over
occasionally,
here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I've told people, like, but like they've gone, I Sambuca shots, and I'm like, oh, well, that's for coffee, and they're like, what are you
Because it has-
talking about?
we
because
don't do
it
that
has
here.
a licorice taste.
Yeah.
And it's a high
gross.
alcohol content because of the sugar.
Yeah.
The sugar.
Yeah, that
puts
makes
it
sense.
on, right? So they probably shoot it because it's cheaper.
It's
They-
sweet.
Probably, yeah.
It's sweet, like compared to like it's that
It's licorice,
Sambuca, like the
Peppermint
sour,
schnapps.
Archers, which is peach schnapps,
Right.
like the apple sours nonsense, all of that.
Right.
It's sweet, so it's
I
easy
just
to
thought
knock
it was
back.
weird. Which idea for anyone that might be listening to this as a brewer? Sambuca coffee.
beer.
Yeah, coffee
Oh,
Sambuca.
You can drink
Italian coffee.
Well,
Well,
it
Italian
would be,
coffee.
It would be licorice though. It would be a licorice taste, and I don't know
I'm
how
not
that would
massively-
sit with,
I'm not
with beer.
I'm
mean,
not a massive licorice one, but I think if you did,
Dark beers do sometimes have a bit of a licorice taste to them. It depends on what they put in it.
you could
You
do
have
like.
to mix some coffee beans.
I
with
feel like you
it.
could do Italian coffee,
Mm.
and then it
I've
would be
never
like.
heard of that.
Yeah, well, that's why, because I've said to people before about like, yeah, you put Sambuca in coffee, and they're like, no, you don't.
No, I've never.
And I was
heard
like,
of that.
yes,
That's
you
so
do,
good.
and that's the only way that I know how
It's
to drink
also
Sambuca,
considered
or
an
an aperitif.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it settles your stomach, and
Yeah.
with Italian meals, if you've had a lot to eat,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's the only one I know. It's
Yeah.
like literally after dinner aperitif or coffee.
And chill.
And over here, people are like, oh, just go to the park and drink a sambuca.
You
And
know,
I'm
this
like,
is Britain, not Italy, don't you?
Yeah.
this
yeah,
is
exactly.
like, but like that was culture shock for me. I was like, what do you mean you just go and drink sambuca? So that's the only reason. There's nothing to do with beer, but again, alcohol related.
I think it's, yeah.
Is that not weird? Yes or no?
No, it's not. I don't think it's
Weird.
I don't think it's weird. It just isn't something.
It's culturally different.
Thank you. Just like gender different. It's culturally different. And in Italy, I would guarantee
They probably would be like, we don't do that.
no, I was just going to say in Italy, I would guarantee you that they probably
They
do
put
it all
in,
the time.
they probably do it all the time.
I know, they probably like, we just 2 shots of sambuca. Like those Italian Americans.
Yeah,
don't
those
do
Italian Americans
that.
would.
And remember, there's different kinds. There's clear, there's black, and the black
didn't
is
even know there was that many
really,
different kinds.
really good. Yeah, the black is really good. And Papa
He used to make it.
sambuca.
Yeah.
He made
He made clear kind,
sambuca.
I didn't know there
I
was
still
that.
have a bottle.
Do you?
Yeah.
Cheeky.
Yeah.
I thought we finished the last bottle.
No. Dad has another bottle that we are torn because we don't want it to go.
Yeah.
How big is the bottle?
But we don't want it to
But you don't-
spoil.
yeah,
Alcohol really doesn't spoil. Oh, it's
Yeah.
not that big.
So you could divvy
Don't
it
tell
up.
anybody.
I mean, it's out there now, Mum.
But I cut that bit out.
Don't worry, my siblings don't listen to this.
Oh,
It's
it's
cool.
It goes back to the day when you could buy 100% distilled alcohol,
Yeah.
right? And so he would make that. He would make coffee liqueur. He would make peppermint.
Schnapps?
Yeah, all of those. I mean, he loved doing that. That was fun for him.
Yeah.
Limoncello.
Yeah, he made
A
limoncello.
lot of Italians still make limoncello.
Yeah.
And when we went to Italy, that was like my thing. Oh, I could drink cream limoncello
Is
morning,
nice.
noon, and
Again, here's another one. I mean, I've seen breweries make a limoncello, but bring back limoncello beers.
I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway,
It was a good one.
I digress.
I'm thinking of
Aura.
That's what I was like, who's the brewery that does it?
Yeah.
Aura.
Because they're owned by Italians.
When we go to that Italian restaurant,
They will have limoncello.
they usually always offer us limoncello.
Yes, they do. Or sambuca.
Oh, yeah.
There you
So,
go.
There you go.
Any I don't know, any questions?
I don't think so. It's been very interesting listening to kind of your family background because similarities in my family background, but different. Like my mum and dad didn't drink a lot. Mum didn't drink at all. She didn't like the taste of it. She always used to tell me that she used to drink. Do you have Baby Sham in the US?
The little bottles.
It's like I don't really know what it is. It wasn't like champagne. It's not champagne. I think it was like sparkling wine, but it was called Baby Sham. Used to have a little deer on it.
I don't know.
Came out at Christmas. She used to drink that while she was dating my dad, but once they got together, she stopped because she didn't have to protect anymore.
Yeah.
That's the only time she ever drank. It's the only time she ever drank alcohol. She just didn't like it. My nan didn't really like it. My dad would have a shandy every now and then. Like he might have a shandy when we're out, but he's never really been a big drinker. Apparently that's because he used to play football and he went on a football tour as a young man and got absolutely wasted and was really ill and just never did it ever again.
It just takes
yeah,
one
he was
of
just
those.
like, no, I've never did it again. Like
no.
a shandy every now and then. So there wasn't really much alcohol in our house. My granddad on my dad's side used to drink Maxon's milk stout. I remember
We've
them.
talked about that.
Yeah, I remember them being in the pantry. My dad's mum never really drank alcohol at all. My mum's dad was a big beer drinker, and his was he used to drink Courage Best Bitter, Fremlin's Best Bitter, which was a local brewery in Maidstone where my family are from. The brewery's no longer there and they've turned it into a shopping centre. So I used to drink that, and my uncle would drink a lot. So there wasn't a lot of drinking, and if it was drinking, it was probably beer. Nobody really drank wine much. We didn't really have spirits. Like there'd be stuff in the, there'd be the
claret
the
for the
cupboard,
guests.
there'd be the alcohol
You have the
cabinet,
liquor
and it'd
cupboard,
have stuff that had been there for a long
Dust on the tops of
time.
the bottle.
Yeah,
Like that's like where like the crumb de menthe goes.
right.
to
And
die.
nobody really drank any of it ever.
Well, plus I look at it as it's wasted calories.
Yeah.
If I'm going to consume calories, make it a hot fudge sundae. You know, make it a chocolate mousse. Make it a decadent veal parm sandwich.
Yeah.
I don't need alcohol to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas like I think for us we're like, give us like
Yeah.
a decadent imperial stout.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you've got to enjoy the flavours, and I think that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
when we were drinking beer as teenagers, like I understood beer to be that yellow fizzy stuff that didn't really taste
The
it very
cheapest stuff you
much.
could
And
buy.
I was just like, why do you drink this? Like it doesn't really taste or anything. Like if I'm going to drink alcohol, I want it to be tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got given a Sam Adams when I was in the US, and I was like, oh, this actually has some flavour to it. And then I started trying other beers, and I was like, they can put fruit in this, and you can do interesting things. Like that's when I was like, oh, actually, this is interesting. Like it's got to, and I'm not a person that drinks to get drunk. I'm drinking
Yeah.
because I want to taste it, and I want
You want to
taste
enjoy the
something.
taste.
Yeah.
We have a place in Malden that we go. They have, what do they have, like 24 taps?
I mean, I don't think there's that many types. They do have quite a lot.
But
of
they have a stock
a lot of local
canned,
ones,
a lot of local
Yeah.
breweries. And every once in a while, because I like their burgers, if I'm going to have a burger, I might have the smallest one they offer. And it's just because I'm like, oh, chocolate beer, I could enjoy that.
That's the thing. You tend to like having sips of mine because you're like, I can taste it and not have a whole one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the same thing with wine. When we were in Arizona, we did the vineyard tour. And I tasted, one wine that had notes, they said, of chocolate and vanilla. And I really liked it. I bought a bottle. I still have it. I've opened it because I had a glass one night, and it sits there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not, it just is not a thing for me.
No.
So.
I guess that's the question, is like, when you think of beer, do you think, like, when your knee-jerk reaction to, like, if an alien landed on the planet and said, describe to me what beer is. People talk about beer, I intercept radio signals about beer. What? I don't know, I'm trying to make the scenario real.
So,
how would you describe it? Like, would you think to say things that are, like, chocolate or fruity or anything else?
No.
Like, how would you describe it?
I'd say it's a gold, fizzy, tasty, fuzzy drink to have with hamburgers and barbecue.
That's fair.
And a good description.
It is a pretty good description. I think because that's like always historically been the case. Like so many people that don't typically like beer because they don't like that have never realised that there are like fruity and tart and chocolate and dark and like all those other things because everything they know is that light coloured fizzy drink.
Yeah.
But don't you think that if you're a hard alcohol drinker, you know you like vodka, you like gin, you like whiskey. It's one of those. The brands are important. But drink is as good as a top shelf if it's $4 drink. Right? And I don't think people think of beers as having that same kind of variety. When we went to Ireland with Uncle Charlie, he's a big Guinness drinker. He couldn't drink for a long time because he was on seizure medicine. So now that he's off the seizure medicine, occasionally he'll have, he happens to like, I just said it. Guinness, thank you. And so he went to the Guinness factory and they toured and he loved it. And he likes Guinness. Not in my wheelhouse.
I like a good Guinness when it's like because like sometimes if it's like Foster's, Carlin, Bud Light, I'm like Guinness is what I'll go for. And it's when it's served the right way, it's like.
But I do think that, and that's why if I go to that place in Malden, I will have a beer occasionally because when I do that, I like to be able to, if something sounds appealing, I like to be able to taste it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, because we go there so often, I'll say to them, can I just taste it?
Yeah.
Because if I'm not going to drink it, I don't want to waste it.
Over here, it's pretty much like, I know some people will, some people get pissed off
Some
if I
people
say
get
this
annoyed
because they
about
get
it,
annoyed about
yeah.
it. But like, really, if you're not taking the piss, like I can understand if you're taking
Yeah.
the piss and you're holding up a queue of
And
people,
constantly like, let me try
and
this,
you're
let
like,
me
can I
try
try
this,
that? Can I
yeah.
try that? Can I try that? Can I try that? Like that gets a bit boring.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if like really, most people. I can't speak for most people. If you go in and you just go, that sounds really nice, and I'm not sure if I want to order a whole glass of it because I'm not a big drinker and I don't know if that's for me.
Yeah.
Can I just try a little bit of it? Like 9 times out of 10, people are gonna have no issue with you trying
And
it.
that's what they do in Malden. I'll say to them, this one sounds really, really good. I don't know if I want to drink a whole one. Can you just... The other thing that I often do, and bartenders either are very accommodating or they want to slap me. It's like 50-50 proposition.
I think we all have that.
Yeah,
don't
we all
worry.
have that.
Because it has to be cold. And if it's not cold, there's no point.
Yeah.
So I will ask them, I'll pay for the full glass, and I will ask them to pour me half
Half
a
at a
glass.
time. Yeah, that's really
And
smart.
then
Actually,
ask them to give me the other half when I'm done
Yeah.
with the first half. A lot of times I pay for a full glass.
Yeah.
I don't even get through the half.
Yeah.
So they benefit,
Yeah,
right?
They get.
that's quite smart because we will just do like halves and thirds over
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
because sometimes you don't need a whole pint of something.
Yeah.
And if you do, like you said, it gets warm.
Yeah, it gets warm. And
It
then
gets
it's
warm.
not
Once it
the
gets
same.
warm, it's to me, and that's why for a lot of time, as we were traveling, and you've been here 9 years, so we've been here more than once. One of the things I will not do is order a beer because I had always labored under the preconception that British beer was warm.
It's a stereotype. But
Yeah.
I think there's also like trad beer.
Yeah.
Traditional styles
Right.
are served at
Yeah.
a warmer temperature
Yeah.
than what we know
Yeah.
like craft beers. And you can go into a pub and for you it's not ice cold. It's not I feel
Yeah.
like in the US, which is another thing that's quite interesting, like in the US people like things ice cold, which
Yeah.
is almost actually just as bad as having it too warm.
Yeah.
Because you can lose the taste if it's too cold.
Right.
You lose like the depth of taste if it's too cold.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people you see have like frosty mugs and stuff like that, which is like it's a nice novelty in the summer sometimes if you're having
Right.
something that's like very not totally depth of flavour, but it's gonna like kill some of that flavour. And
Yeah.
it's just like just have it, just put the beer in the fridge for a bit and have it chilled. So like that's kind of like the thing. You need it to have that sweet spot, and I think there's this stereotype that over here like all beers, or you're not the first, but like there's lots of people that have said to me like, is the beer actually warm over there?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, but it does depend on where you go because it's going to be warmer than maybe
Yeah.
what you're expecting.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of the reason why I didn't like traditional styles for
Yeah.
quite a while, because I
It was
like
too
it served
wonky.
a little bit
Yeah.
colder.
All right, so I have a question for you. Because
Joe answer this.
when you no. This is a
Oh, me, you.
it's a dual question. When you left home, you were not a beer drinker.
Yes, I was.
Well, see, I didn't know that, so there you go.
Absolutely, I was.
All right, but I didn't know that because you would have a home. So
That's true.
okay.
Arguably true.
So you came here, and I want to know how the two of you met, because you've never told me. Like you've never told me how you met.
Online.
Yes.
We met online on a Facebook
And
group.
why you're doing this.
So we met online on a Facebook group. We were in a chat together. I'll let you explain.
Yeah. So we've done a
A live thing.
yeah. So
Like a video chat
we
thing.
were in a Facebook group, and they did everyone buy some beers. We're gonna do a live stream. A couple of the people in the group would do a live stream. It'd be like, right, we're all gonna drink these types of beers. You can leave comments, or you can have a chat, and we'll have like a drink together. But it was when we couldn't get together in person.
COVID.
Oh, because of COVID.
Yeah,
okay.
'cause of COVID,
So
so
you
we
weren't
were in
doing
lockdown.
this before COVID.
No.
Got it.
And so we were on this live stream, and then we'd sat like chatting to people, and like you're chatting through chat, and then it was like, got to the end of it, and everyone's like, oh, anybody want to do like an
After
after drinks? Where did we do that? It was in a Facebook room.
I think it was in Zoom.
Was it in Zoom? Somebody
We've got
set
a
up a
Zoom
Zoom. Somebody set up a Zoom, and like several of us were like, oh, going to this, and we were chatting, and we ended up talking about how like women didn't people didn't think women drank beer, and like there was a few of us in this group, and it was really difficult because people was like, oh, you know about beer? Yeah, I like beer, I drink beer, I like these different beers. Oh, and like we were just talking about the struggles of being a woman that drinks beer. And then we just started chatting from there.
Yeah.
Because we had very similar opinions on things like that. And then you like podcasts.
Yeah, I listened to a few bit. I mean, I like podcasts full stop, but I'd started listening to a few beer podcasts. And I was like, you should make a podcast because there's no female. Yeah. There's always a token female co-host on it, but it's like mainly a group of men. And I was like, it'd be quite cool. We're not saying that we're not for men or that we don't have men on our podcast. That's very clearly not true. Yeah. But it was a case of I was like, it'd be nice to see like a female leading the conversation as opposed to just the men leading the conversation, and then it becomes like the majority is men, and there's no like it would just be nice to hear things from a female perspective sometimes.
Yeah, and you were just like, I want to hear women talk about beer, and I was like, well, we could do it.
And you were like beer making program.
Yeah. Right? So I homebrew, and during lockdown I had a bit of time. I'd seen that there was a course that you could take, and there was an exam you could take to kind of it's basically, people didn't believe me when I said I knew about beer, and so I was like, well, I'm going to get a qualification that shows that I do like I do know what I'm talking about. And so I took my first level of Cicerone and passed that, and then I was like, well, what am I going to do with this? And I was like, oh, I could start a bit, because I had loads of women come to me and be like, oh, that looks really hard, I don't know if I could do that, and I'm like, no, you talk about beer the same way that I do. Like, you talk about beer the same way that I do, you could totally take that exam and pass it. Like, you could do it. And I realised that women lacked the confidence to go in and do that. So I was like, I'm going to set up a beer school where I build this confidence in people so that they can do it.
Cool.
So I'd started doing that, and we'd talked about that. And I'd done a little bit of podcasting before. And Tori was like, oh, it'd be really nice if we had this podcast that was women, like women's voices. Do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, yeah, we can do a podcast. So we did it. Mm-hmm. We didn't think anybody would listen. And now we're 2 years down the line.
And how many listeners?
I don't know. She does all the time. We don't really, to be fair, we don't really look at it that much. Yeah, when we do, we're always surprised.
We're over 10,000 downloads.
Stop it.
Yeah, we're on like 11,000 something downloads now. And it's just like, sometimes you're like, oh, I don't really think anybody's listening to that. And then we bump into people and they're like, yeah, I'm a brewer and I play it in the brewery when we're brewing the beer.
Yeah.
Or I had a guy come up to me at one of the beer festivals the other day and was just like, I listened to your podcast. I was like, oh, thanks so much. And he's like, you are always talking about following your dreams and just going for it. He's like, so I did. So now I brew at this brewery because I listened to your podcast.
It's weird when you like go to a beer festival.
So
cool. It's weird when you go to a beer festival and someone's like, I know you. And you're like,
almost every beer festival I've been to this year, someone's come up to me and been like,
the minute you walked in, I heard the voice and I went, yep.
People have been like, I listened to your podcast, it's so great, thank you for doing it. And I didn't think there were people like we don't get much interaction in comments and things like that from a wider
so you
group
always
of
think,
normal people.
but also
kind of
like, but also on
but people are listening.
There's not a lot of people on YouTube, and then you kind of think like. Oh, well, it's probably not that many, but we've always said, we said it numerous times, we've always said from the beginning, like, as long as we enjoy doing it, it's just a time to be social and to talk about beers, and it's really cool. It forces us to try different beers, and I like the themes, I like themes. Yeah. So it's like, it's quite good in that sense. And then we were kind of like, even if no one listened, we'd still do it. And then we go, let's just like, for shits and giggles, we're doing a planning session. Let's just see how many people. And we're like, oh shit, people actually listen. Because we just always said, like, we just put less effort into it.
Yeah.
If it was like, we were like, if no one really listened, we'd still do it. We just probably maybe wouldn't prioritise it over other things. We put less effort into it. I don't know. And then we look and we're like, shit, people actually listen to us. Cool.
So is this beer or is this champagne?
That's beer. You can have a sip of it, but it's quite acidic.
Yeah, it's quite acidic as that one.
It's Lindemann's 200th anniversary.
Yeah, no, that's.
I didn't think you would. That's why I didn't give it to you. As I said in another episode that you might be listening to first, or maybe you don't. It's definitely not an introductory bit.
No. No. But we were going to do one episode a month.
Yeah. And then it turned into quite quickly one episode a week.
One episode a week, and we're 113. I just put out episode 113. So
interesting.
Well, it's very interesting because when I was planning our little road trip when she came home at Christmas, when I called night shift, I am that mother. So
God.
I said,
I'm mortified.
I explained what she does.
Mortified.
And I said it would be really exciting.
What I do as
if
a
we could
hobby.
do a tour.
Yeah.
As a hobby.
And they were like, oh, that's what she does, really?
As a hobby.
And they were like,
That's amazing. No, but you do it. This is what I keep saying to her. Like when I messaged her and was like, I bumped into this guy who says he's brewing because of our podcast.
Right.
She's like, no, it's because of you. And I was like,
It's
no,
mainly you.
he listens to the podcast, which was your idea to begin with.
And-
like, this
yeah.
is you. And she can't, like, she just
I
does
hate
it.
it.
She can't
I don't
do
like
it.
attention. I get mortified.
oh, stop. You
I
love
literally
attention.
do. I really
You
don't.
love attention.
I really
you are
don't.
a diva, let's be
I
honest.
really don't.
But that is really cool. And thank you for doing this with her, but also
I also made her go do that talk. That she did a talk a couple of weeks, and I made her do it
good for you.
because I couldn't do it, and she was like, "Oh, you can just go do it," and I was like, "No, I can't go, and you need to go do it because you can." So
Well,
I made her do
I
it.
think the important thing is that when
My
she
mum was like, don't roast me on here.
No,
I feel like I'm in the hot seat. I'm like, roasted.
I was going to be so mad at you if you didn't go
the
do
thing
that.
is-
I was going to do it. I was always going to do it because I said I would. Anytime I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm just
but
just going to get anxiety on the lead up
At
to
first,
it.
you weren't going. You said you weren't going
Yeah,
to do it, and I was
no.
like, "No, you need to go do it."
I think the important thing for me as a mom is when she left home, it was hard.
Yeah.
And she went into a completely different culture, and I spent a lot of time worrying about that.
Yeah.
And so in 9 years, I mean, she started speaking this way the day she got off the plane, let's be honest.
Not intentionally.
But no, it wasn't
You're one of those
intentional.
language sponges.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that's what it is. Rick
Yeah.
says. Rick says I'm literally a sponge.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's like, I don't
Yeah.
understand how you do it. Like I can be studying like a language, and if I'm just like saying the words enough, I like sound like he's just
Yeah.
like your pronunciation of something's like really good. He's like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
He's like, you're a freak. I was like,
Well, that's
Thanks,
good.
babe.
That's the creative
Cheers.
side of your brain.
Yeah.
But it was good as this developed. It was nice for me to watch because what it told me is she has a community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she has Rick's family who are amazing.
I feel like this is not turning into beer
But
at all.
no,
This
but
isn't what you wanted,
but
was it?
this
No,
is,
it's
but this
backfired
is
on me so
something.
much.
But this is something that you found a community with.
Oh, 100%.
And not only did you find the community, but you kind of founded the community. And you're
Founded
building the
strong.
community.
Founded
and,
strong.
And who knows where it goes
Yeah.
from here. And I think having, I'm not going to roast you, but having known where you came from and the struggles you had, this is just amazing to me. So the and I'll go one step further to say, to even ask me to sit with you is a big deal because I think more times than not you wish you could just like drive me to Heathrow now.
She also internalizes
So,
stuff that's not quite true.
But
that's
no,
okay.
I think this is amazing, and I think the depth of knowledge that you have clearly acquired is
Which you have.
impressive. And I think you just can only get
So
better. So
roasted.
hooray for you.
Literally, yeah.
So thank you. Take a
I love
bow.
that. I love that she's like, oh, you love the attention. Like, no, anyone, literally anyone that knows me, Rick will vouch for this, knows I hate attention. I'd rather just sink into the floor when people say it. I'm like, I'm good. Yeah, I mean, just to bring it back about beer, to tie up what we're going to do next, because we're going to cut at some point, we'll come back to it. Like in the sense of like going to tap rooms and stuff, like what is your feeling on like craft beer tap rooms? Like what do you think of when you think of a craft beer tap room? Do you feel like that's an inviting space for you? Do you feel intimidated? Do you feel it's a comfortable space? Like
I'm 71. Very little intimidates me.
gas queen.
Thank you.
Yes.
I am not intimidated.
She's a bad bitch.
I would most likely sample. When you say tap room, I literally picture a cask with a tap.
Yeah.
That's what I picture.
Yeah.
You okay?
But that aside, I also picture nice comfy leather chairs
I like
and maybe some cigar smoke going on.
Yeah.
And
I like
that would
this.
probably be more offensive for me
Yeah.
than anything else because I don't smoke.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not intimidated by it because I would expect that whoever was running that tap room if I simply said to him, this isn't my knowledge base, so lead me in the direction, that this is what I like, find me something I like, that they would do it. So intimidated, no.
Nice.
Still the designated driver, yes.
Not over here.
Well, no, not while I'm here, quite true. Yeah, that would be ugly on every level.
Cool. So,
Done?
we'll finish our beers. For the course of the month, I'll take you out to some places.
Okay.
And then we'll revisit at the end of the month.
And by the end of the month, I probably won't be able to talk clearly because I will have had all that.
Yeah, you're drunk all the
Cool. Good session, everyone.
Tthank you.
Love it.
High
Thank
five.
you.
High five.
We're back. Obviously, we're not in person anymore.
No,
So that's,
we are.
that was quite a jolting cut.
Separate.
We're separate now. Although I think for continuity purposes, I actually think I had this on.
I think you did.
And I think I had this on, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
Might have done. Might have done.
But now we're matching because now I've got my Coven t-shirt on. So again, that was not planned.
That was not planned. We always do this. It's never planned. Cheers.
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 My mum is not drinking a beer with me this time. She is having a baby martini because my dad's made himself a gin martini and with olives. I'll put that on record, with olives. And she took a little bit of that. So
here we are.
We're wrapping up a month. Yeah, I've taken her to some. So since we spoke to you, obviously
I was going to say, where have you been in that month?
Where haven't we been?
So we went to Canterbury, obviously, when we saw you.
We did.
And unfortunately, the weather wasn't the best. It just rained sideways. So we ended up leaving early from Canterbury. We didn't even stay the second night. Because there wasn't really
anything else to see.
There wasn't anything else to see. There was a lot of stuff to see. But with their level of walking and the rain, it was not ideal. And we had to work the next morning. So it was kind of like we'd have to get up stupid early. They wouldn't have seen anything anyways. And there wasn't even any, we were going to go to Flock. I was going to take them to Flock because that was a 3-minute walk from us. Flock Brewery. But they were closed on Mondays.
Yeah, a lot of the craft places close on Monday because they're open over the weekend. So
exactly. So I think they were kind of closed on Monday and Sunday night. I don't think the time they closed on Sunday night as well. I think their timing just wasn't right with what we were doing. So we weren't going to make that.
Yeah.
And then there was a few of the other places I wanted to go that I've been to before with you, but we had the dog. And I was surprised, actually, about how many places were not dog friendly.
Yeah, well, I was surprised when you said you couldn't find anywhere. I was very surprised.
I think in the summer it's dog friendly because
Yeah.
a lot of them were like, oh yeah, if we were outside, but it was absolutely pissing it down and no cover. And they were like, yeah, we've got 2 tables outside and there's no coverage. I don't think you want to sit outside. And I was like, no, don't. So we ended up leaving early, so she didn't get to go to any places there. But we came back and
we saw the cathedral and we saw the gift shop in the cathedral.
Yeah.
And we saw one other. We went. That's when we went to Dover. But we saw her that.
We saw you before we went to Dover.
Yeah.
But in terms of beery places, didn't really get to take you many places there. Came back here. I took you to Elusive.
You did take me to Elusive.
Took you to
How was that?
It was interesting. We don't see a lot. I mean, we have breweries clearly, but we don't have one set up in quite the same way. And so it was interesting. Did I have a beer? I don't think I did. I think I had a cider.
No, I don't think you had anything alcoholic. I think you had non-alcoholic.
It's been a month of drinking
when I
don't drink, so go figure.
I think you tried a sip of mine and you tried a sip of I think Imperial Morrisman was on, or maybe it was just normal Morrisman.
Yeah.
My dad was like, oh, chocolate, that sounds interesting. So I got that. I got like a sample. I asked for a sample and Ian was working. He's so lovely. And he like gave me like I was like, I just want a little taste so you could taste it. And he gave me like
I did taste
a huge one. And you tasted that.
I did.
Yep. She likes chocolate, but did you like that beer? I guess is the question.
Yeah, well, anything chocolate, right? I mean, there's no bad chocolate.
I think that's true.
Which is quite impressive because it's a stout. And I think like especially there's a reputation, not a reputation so much anymore, but there's always this like thought process that's like, oh yeah, it's a darker beer. You like women like fruitier, lighter beers. And And so, yeah, you didn't dislike that one.
No.
You were like, oh, it's nice. But you were like, I couldn't drink too much of it because it's quite, I remember you just saying like, you couldn't have too much of it because it was just a bit thick and rich.
Yeah.
But it was really nice.
Yeah.
Dad thought it was really nice. But again, he was like, can't have too much of that as a non-beer drinker, because he's like, oh, it's just a bit too much as someone that doesn't tend to drink beer. But he thought it tasted nice. Sticky there. Yeah, I think you pointed out, it was quite interesting because she pointed out something about the differences in the breweries, like in the US, being like, she was like, oh, this doesn't look like, where's the one that's close by?
The one I took you to, Night Shift.
No, yeah, it's the Night Shift. So she's like, this doesn't look like Night Shift or Lord Hobo or anything like that.
The first one we did, or no, Dog. What was the name of the
Bone Up Brewery?
Bone Up Brewery. That's the one where you guys did the beer flights.
Yeah,
it was more like that, where it was.
But I would say actually it's not, because that's like inside of, so that it's not in an industrial unit. Like none of the places that we went to really in the US were in an industrial unit.
They were in industrial parks, but the building itself didn't look industrial, and they had lots of tables for sitting. Much bigger venue, I guess.
Yeah.
What I would call
it. I think that's what you were saying, is you were like, oh, I'm not used to it, like this doesn't look like what I'm used to seeing when I see beer tap rooms or whatever in the US, because it does tend to be they're less like elusive. You've been there, Joe. It is very much like a small, like it's a relatively small space for a tap room. I love it, but inside of like a industrial unit, and I think that's quite common over here, and I'm not sure it's as common everywhere back there. They all tend to set up spots that are more inside. Like I don't know, this was inside.
Are they more purpose built, do you think?
I think they get more venues that, even if they have more of an industrial feel to it, like I'm thinking Idle Hands, that's like in an industrial estate that has more of like an industrial feel to it with like benches and that kind of thing. But it's still very much, and I think even Night Shift to a degree has a little bit of like the industrial feel to it, and you can see the brewery in the background, but it's very much like, you're right, a purpose-built space, as opposed to it being like, cool, where we set up is legitimately an industrial shed.
Right. I wouldn't call what we have sheds for the most part. The smallest one was the Bone Up
industrial unit,
and that was very, very small, but it was still enclosed totally. So being
like
in a garage
like a
was
brick,
interesting.
like a brick front building, like whereas this was like literally shutters up, you're in a unit, but when you're inside it's made to feel like it's a room.
It was fun. I mean, he was very kind.
So there was like Adam was there, a few of our other friends were there that I saw there, and she was like, everyone was really nice. I was like, no.
Yeah, they were very kind. And then we did Reading, right?
I took her to the Nag's Head in Reading. We went to Geddon, where she met Andy, but Andy wasn't exclusive. She met Andy, and she was like, and Ruth, and she was like, they were so very nice.
Nicest person in brewing.
Nicest person in brewing. Andy's won an award.
Brewer of the Year.
Writers
Guild. Yeah. Well done, Andy. Well deserved.
Yeah, honestly, I was like, I just felt like, he definitely deserves that, hands down. But yeah, she got to meet Andy and Ruth, and
I think I had
you did have a beer. You had a white stout.
Yeah.
Oh,
because he said it was chocolate. That's why
she wanted something that was chocolate but not chocolate. She was like, I want chocolate, but I don't want it. I don't want a stout.
Yeah, I can't.
But I want chocolate, but like I don't know. And then Adam, obviously you know who I'm talking about, our friend Adam, he was like, get this one, it's a white stout. And I was like, oh, I don't know if she's gonna go for that, but you had that.
I drank most of it. I had him get a small one.
I finished it, but you drank most of it.
Finish all the beers.
Yeah, well, I wasn't gonna let it go.
Waste it.
No,
I think it was just more like, you don't drink a lot of beer, so you kind of just sipping on it, and then you're like, you kind of hit a point where you're like, done.
Well, the one thing with that and with this, where I might have 4 glasses of club soda or 4 glasses of water in that time period, I literally sip the beer. And I think I've said before, for me, if it's not cold, when it gets to that room temperature point, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm not having it. So although, because we were outside and it was fairly cold that night,
it was relatively cold.
It stayed colder than it might have in the middle of summer. So I finished maybe 3/4 of it.
Yeah, I finished the rest.
And it was good. I really liked it. I have never disliked beer. I've just never, other than Stella, I've never found smaller craft type beers. Usually they tend to be more intense and
too much flavors. Too many flavors.
Too much. That I tried. Where did I try?
I'm like Flav Queen. I've been like teaching. We had tacos, so I was like making tacos, and I was like, do this, it will give you more flavs. Like I am all about all the flavs, and some people just aren't down for flavs, and that's okay.
Well,
Flav Town.
Did you use like all of your hot sauces as well?
I was literally like, here's a hot sauce. I opened up my last bottle.
Oh no.
R.I.P. hot sauce.
We're so sad. But
I'm very
particularly sad.
A moment of silence for Sammy and hot sauce, because I'm literally thoughts and prayers. Honestly, when I got
run out of hot sauce, then what's she gonna do?
Open the last bottle of Mirakai hot sauce.
Oh no.
I was like, but I want them to try it, but I don't. But I do, but I want to save it. But if I save it, I'm gonna save it for so long.
And then you won't be able to eat it.
I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine, but it's just gonna lose those flavors that I love. But yeah, I gave them some hot sauce.
I tasted it. It's about as close as I came.
Yeah, she's not much of a spicy person. My dad's a very spicy.
Me either.
I can't.
I gave Joe. I bought Joe a bottle to just try, and then she's like, "Nah."
No. I was like, "You can
bonus.
have that.
I've got a bonus bottle.
Like you can have that back." It's not for me.
So,
but
then I tried one of your sours. Oh, that was the same night I tried one of the.
Yeah, you had some sips of mine, and some of them are just not.
Oh, not a fan of sours. Okay.
No, but I also think it's because it was quite a sharp sour.
Oh, like it wasn't an introductory sour.
It wasn't like intro
and
level.
It followed the chocolate.
Oh
yeah,
like a good combination.
No.
But you've had sips of mine along the way. But what did you think about Nag's Head? Was that location wise like? I mean, you didn't really go inside. Like for me, I love Nag's Head because inside it was just like rock music playing. It was so busy. Like you haven't really got a chance to go inside.
In the
pub
I went. Oh, I went in the pub because I had to use the ladies' room.
She had to go to.
Oh my God, it was insane. There was no place to walk. People are not unfriendly, but they're into whatever it is they're doing. And so if you're trying to walk around,
you have to go by darts to get. You have to go through the darts.
You have to go through the darts. That sounds dangerous.
I did say
tables, and then there's this darts, and the guys.
It's not a big place,
and they didn't shoot at me. Obviously,
no.
They were.
I was
gracious.
like, be careful of the darts. It's like, do not get in the way of the darts.
You're gonna wait till they're done, and then you go down to the bathroom, and the bathrooms were fine, but then you have to come back out, and I'm not exactly a tiny person, and so I can't fit through little teeny tiny spaces.
I feel ya.
And I couldn't, like, I would say to someone, can you just pull in so I can get by? But then I'd be horrified to say it because they'd look and they go, you big cow, why don't you do something?
No, I don't saying that. She was doing that today. We got on like the lift and the lift started beeping and she started going, do one of us have to get off? And I was like, no, it's fine.
No.
Like,
no.
I was acutely conscious of that. So, but I managed to find my way out, which was fine. And, but it was what probably a typical pub is.
I think it's just like it is a local pub and it's very like swinging in. I think the longer you're here, the more you learn how to do, because my dad was the same way. He was like, people just come at you and you don't. I'm like, the longer you're here, the more you learn to you learn the choreography that is like going around, like when you're moving, like one person goes one way and you slide around another way, and it just you learn how to do that. And it's like when we went into London today, and it's that same thing. If you learn the choreography of how the country works, the longer you're here. So like in London, I can kind of be like whoop, 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 and like go through different spaces that you might have maybe found like harder to kind of do that because you're thinking, oh, am I in the way? I don't want to be in other people's way. And you learn kind of how to move around people. But in terms of like the pub
he
space,
also learned not to order a martini.
Yeah, my dad learned.
We've had this conversation, haven't we?
He already learned not to order a martini the last time here. And he taught someone in York how to.
He did. He actually.
Did he?
We went to York. So that's another place. We went to York.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot there.
I don't know if I brought you to too many beer places in York. Because I think mainly I went when you weren't there.
No, we went. Well, you and Rick probably went when we were in church praying for your souls.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. Yeah, they went. No, actually, they went to the cathedral, and I spent 2 hours queuing for a ghost.
Yes, I did see your ghost.
That was not York. That was, where did I go to church? We didn't go to church in York. We did Saint Demetrius in York.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Basically,
at some point she prayed for your soul. That's all that's important.
Every day she does. So I know Rick and I went to Brew York the first night.
Nice.
We'll go out for the first full day that we were there, because we'll just go out for like a quick cheeky drink. So we did that. Yep. We went into Spark, which was like a cool, it's like commune where you sit, you can order on your phone and they'll bring stuff to you. And Turning Point had a bar there.
Nice.
Got Turning Point, and you had maybe a taste of that. I'm not sure. You didn't hate that one, and that was a sour. How did you find Spark?
Wasn't as bad.
Where it was like the sitting at the tables ordering, minus the fact that we fucked it up. And we
that was the place with all the
different food stands. What did you think about like that atmosphere of like sitting down and like ordering food and ordering beer and ordering drinks like on your?
I think it works really well for young people who have done it before. For instance, a lot of the tables were picnic benches.
Yeah.
I can get in and out of a picnic bench. It's not the easiest thing, but I can do it. My husband can't at all because his knees are just rubbish. And so, so to find a place to sit, that caused the biggest problem because we had already ordered.
We scanned a QR code. Didn't realize that QR code was aligned just to that table. We thought you put it in at the end. You put your card details and it said, thanks for your order.
Right.
And then we went, so I had to go run around and tell everyone, like, we've moved tables.
And then the other thing was that not all the food comes at the same time because you get it from different vendors. And I don't think I've ever eaten someplace where people didn't automatically occasionally you get to a restaurant and someone screws a meal up and so you have to wait. But for the most part, when we go out to eat, everybody gets their food at the same time.
Yeah.
It wasn't upsetting. It wasn't annoying. It was, what's the word I want? Not even frustrating, but it gave me almost like, say the word, anxiety.
It's been like the word of like the last few weeks.
I didn't want to eat my meal because they didn't have their food.
Rick's done the same thing. Of like Rick would feel rude and he wouldn't eat.
Right.
And then
she and I would get our food. The guys didn't get their food. We were frankly almost done. So it was fun. Something, if you travel and you don't do new things, shame on you.
But I think the bench thing, it's worth pointing out, and like Jared and I also, so the bench thing's almost like that could be actually thinking about that. That's like an accessibility issue.
An accessibility issue. Yeah, it is.
But excuse me, they had tables that the benches pulled away
so
from.
They had the standard orange.
The orange bench
code. Limited supply, and most of them were used, which made
they were Big Bench managed to get a few benches in there, so that we ended up finding a big bench, and actually surprisingly sturdy at Spark. Because I was like, I don't know if you want to move to this one because I'm not sure it's going to be more stable than just a picnic bench. But it actually was surprisingly sturdy.
So it worked fine. So it was interesting. I would have liked to have walked through first to see what people were making because
there were some that weren't actually on the menu thing.
And what happened when the menu came up, the first thing I recognized that I would eat was a bagel Reuben sandwich, which was very, very good. But I think they had fried chicken. They had
you ordered. You literally ordered just Diet Cokes from Fried Chicken people, so I had to run up.
Well,
and be
that
like,
was a
sorry,
mistake again.
I've just got fried chicken. I've just got 2 Diet Cokes, so they were like, "No food." I was like, "No," and they were like, "Okay." I was like, "Thank you," and I just sort of like took it, and I was like, and just like walked away.
It was stupid. What can I say? But so I guess maybe some more direction from the people when you walk through the door to say, hey, before you sit down and order, why don't you walk around, see what's there?
Yeah.
And you'll have a better idea. And then you can look at the menu. And then for somebody my age, apps are hard to use. That's why I didn't see a lot of older people.
No, but I think that's also like, it's a valid point. Like, I think this is another thing that this is not a beer specific venue, but I think like the two takeaways would be, number one, like accessibility for people, because dad might not have been older, he might have just been someone that had a leg issue and like couldn't just shimmy into a bench. It's something that like places need to think about, because you think standard pubs like do tend to have, when we went to the Nag's Head, I absolutely love the Nag's Head, but all their outside seating is benches, like picnic benches. So like my dad had to sit on the end and my mum had to kind of like shimmy down on the inside, which is fine, she could do it more than he could, but it's something that venues should keep in mind, I guess, and maybe that's why so many of them give in to big bench and get the big orange benches. But it makes more sense now, traveling around with someone that has a little bit more accessibility issues, as to why someone might choose like those benches over picnic benches. And it makes sense as accessibility, but also I think the lesson of like, it's okay for that not to be your target demographic. So like, maybe like you tried it and that was great, but maybe you're not their target demographic, and like,
which I
that's
totally
also
get.
But like that's also okay. Like I feel like you have to, and you know, if you make all the compromises for because then they could tell you, oh, you need to walk around first, but then the frustration would be, if you have limited accessibility, the walking around is not going to
but that's a choice easy. You get to make.
No,
that's how it should.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is like, sometimes it's just a place that's just not your scene. Like
no, it was very
that's
clear.
Also okay.
It was very clear what was the folks that were in there were a younger audience, some of them with, you know, young kids.
Yeah.
There were very few what I would call my generation people. And that makes perfect sense. I don't come from the school that says every venue has to meet everybody's needs, but
you can try though.
But accessibility, the accessibility piece is the one that should be considered, because yes, we are older and no, we can't manipulate a picnic table, but there are a lot of people who can't, and they are much younger than us.
Yeah.
True.
So, but I can't, I mean, the food we had was very good. I had really no complaints.
Definitely good.
Where else did we go?
I'm trying to think of other beer places we went to. I took, when Rick picked us up, we went to a pub. There's a few different beer spots actually that we went to, but it was all very like, it kind of felt more restaurant or like upscale pub, if you know what I mean, like not a traditional pub, but more like it was a pub, but it's a little bit more mod. It has the pub
the steak
formula.
We went to the bar on the way. Well, what was the name of it that before?
Rick she tried. Yes, that's the one.
And
I was
that's where
about.
I also tried.
She tried a chocolate cider, Rosie's chocolate. Which you got, I was like a little bit, it would be fine. You were actually contemplating getting a glass if you could have had it with ice, but then I was like, I don't know, like if we ask for it with ice. I was like, you can. It
was a little thin, but it should be a cider. Really, really good. It was really, I liked it. I don't know if I would have been able to drink a whole glass.
I was surprised it actually wasn't terrible.
It was good. Yeah.
So we had that, and then
you had a couple beers there.
I did, and then you had Vault Cities, isn't it? You had a rhubarb Streisand.
Oh yeah,
I had to finish your rhubarb Streisand.
Where did we go? That was another place.
That was another bar that we went to.
Bluebird?
No, nothing like that.
What's the name of that?
Fosgate. I think it was Fosgate.
Oh, I don't
Doesn't
know.
matter the name, but basically,
because they had a whole section of, what did you tell us those beers were that they
had a lot of Brew Yorks there.
Yeah,
I think, I don't know if you're thinking the same place I am, but basically, she had a rhubarb Streisand.
That was interesting.
Yeah, did you
wanted it because the name, because she was like Barbara Streisand. Yeah. And then she got it, and she was like, "Oh, it's not bad." But then I ended up drinking. But basically, I'd asked for a half, and they gave me a full pint.
Okay.
And I think the same thing happened, where she doesn't drink it as quickly as we do.
Yeah.
So. Toward the end.
And I think actually, that's another lesson learned there for people from an accessibility standpoint of like, when people don't. Not that this place didn't, I just think they misheard me, but like places that, and beer festivals that don't offer like different size options, where it's kind of like you get a pint or like a half pint. Like sometimes certain people just want a third because that's all they're able to finish. Like not ordering a third, it's like sometimes you do it because you know that that's how you enjoy it best, and like anything more than that is just going to go to waste. So yeah, I mean that's a lesson.
And then we did the Hive.
Yeah, I took her to the Hive yesterday. She didn't have a beer, she had a coffee. She had a decaf coffee. But What did you think of like the vibes that you got from all these different places that you've gone? Just to summarize, so we can wrap up.
They're very clearly neighborhood based. I think a lot for the most part. They seem to attract a repeat particular audience. The Hive was different in that they offered food.
They had like charcuterie boards, which was
And
good. It was quite good.
it was early in the day, so there were families in there. That's a very dog friendly place.
Yeah, we didn't take Phelan because she's a pain in the bum.
But don't let her hear you say
she's
that.
not in here.
You're so mean to her.
Yeah, she's had a rough. She's going to be saying thank God when she sees those suitcases go out the front door, because that poor dog has been shipped out
twice.
3 times?
She only went for overnights like twice. Don't be dramatic.
She's ready to be done with us.
I mean, Phelan will be dramatic, let's be real.
Phelan is dramatic. She's always dramatic. Phelan's always dramatic. My mum's apologized for stepping on her like more times than
she's always at my feet.
And I was like, you don't have to apologize. She didn't scream, even move. Like,
she's like,
fine.
And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, honey. I was like, it's her fault. She's put herself there. It's fine.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I think
is it a place that you could envision yourself kind of like, if you were over here, like the next time you come over, say you come over for another month, are those types of establishments that like,
first of all, am I allowed?
Yeah, you're allowed. we'll allow, the judge will allow it. I'll have to ask Phelan. Jury's still out on her, not sure. But like,
Rick is the one that matters, so let's be honest.
It will be fine.
Rick's making the decision.
And of course he'll just be like, whatever, I don't care, sure. He's so chill. He'd be like, yeah, fine. If you'd come back over here for another month, like, do you feel like these places that I've taken you around, you'd feel welcome or comfortable, or like you're seen to go and sit in? Like, do you feel that they're places that you would want to go back to, or would you just kind of feel a bit out of your depth uncomfortable?
I think that I don't see how you could feel uncomfortable. Nobody makes you feel uncomfortable, and if you're uncomfortable, it's because it's not something you want to do.
I think that I would argue there are places that can make you feel uncomfortable and be uninviting, but I think
but
I'm guessing these I think places can make you feel uncomfortable, but the places around us, like, I tend to feel that I feel comfortable and welcome in the place I've taken you. I didn't take you to some of the other places. Like, I didn't take you to the breweries in Reading, really, but other than like going to Nag's Head, didn't take you to Siren just because it was quite late. We wanted to get home. I mean, there's still tomorrow to go to a few places, so maybe you'll go another place because it'll be my birthday. So we'll see. But I mean, it's your last day tomorrow, but with what you've seen so far, like, I know I feel comfortable and welcome. Like, Joe, you've been to the places around me. Like, I took you to the Hive, didn't I? And I took you to Elusive. Like, did you feel, from your standpoint, any particular way about when you went to both of those, and Siren, you went to all those places?
They're all very welcoming. I think, like, they've Elusive and Siren are very, for the craft beer crowd, but I think they're welcoming spaces for anyone. Like, I don't think if you rocked up and you just wanted a soda, like, or you just wanted the pizza at Siren, that you'd feel out of place there.
I really never felt out of place anywhere. They were always, anybody that I've met since I've been here has been very kind, very accommodating, very easy to be with. Nice. Even in the restaurants, even in what was the place in New York, we had the steak.
That corner,
that young kid who was,
he was like, it was like his like first day, and he was like, I'm so sorry. This is like my first week on the job, and then he's like, and he kept being like he was doing to me, he was doing like self-deprecating, and he was like, it's all right if it's shit, it's my fault and stuff, and I was like, it's fine, we're like, you're doing good, you're doing great. And then my dad asked for a martini, and he was like, you might need to tell me how to do that one. And then he like asked for, it wasn't normal. My dad said like what he normally has, and he's like, I can do that, you might just need to tell me. And he was like stood there like, okay, so I put it in, shake it, ice, yes, no. That he was so lovely, everyone's psyched.
That's very accommodating.
No, I can honestly say I would never feel uncomfortable really going anywhere. But a lot of that is tied to the fact that they know you. So for
Not
me,
everywhere did.
So for me,
Not
this was
everywhere did
kind
at
of,
all.
this was a real role reversal because when she comes home, we take her to the places we always go.
Yeah.
So they know us and we're off jabbering and having fun and all that. And then I go, oh, but my daughter and her husband are here and they're here from England. And then there's a whole big thing about that. So this was a complete role reversal. She was the one that everybody knew. We were the people who didn't know anybody. And it was interesting. And she did a good job.
Yay. Well done, Tori.
Yeah. Is there a final question? Is there anything that you think you could offer as like advice or suggestions that people might not be thinking of in terms of, like, for example, the bench system, like using not picnic benches? Like, is there anything you think that, any wisdom you think, like from your experience, that somebody could learn with, or I guess even a message to someone that comes over and visits and isn't used to craft beer, but you know, or is already living here and isn't used to craft beer, but their friend is, and they want to go in, like, any words of wisdom or advice or suggestions?
I think that it's very clear when you look at particular pubs, either they're welcoming or they're not. Any pub, for instance, that has a sign out front that says the toilets are just for the customers, I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't need to go in there. But that is a key thing. So for me, for old people. But no, I think that if you're not adventurous and you don't try something, you don't know what you're missing. And there is nothing that I had that, first of all, nobody held a gun to my head and said, I have to finish this. So if I didn't like it, I didn't finish it. I think your observation around smaller pours is a good idea. The only thing I will say that I cannot do, and it's age more than anything, I can't eat or drink and walk. And I noticed that
So
that
adequate
happens.
seating. Yeah.
Well, it happened today in Greenwich. A lot of people were walking around, eating and drinking and walking and checking their phones. And I'm like, I can do one thing at a time. I can walk, or I can eat and drink. That's two things. But I can't walk, eat, drink, and do my phone. If I'm following a map, it's not going to happen. And I noticed with a lot of the food stalls, when we went to the Christmas markets, all of those food stalls really were meant to be takeaway and eat and walk. And for those kinds of things, having a place, I didn't happen to notice them, but I'm sure they were there somewhere. Having a place with some sit-down spaces.
You didn't miss it. There wasn't.
Would make those more attractive to that population that doesn't have the same.
And I think observation-wise as well, is like when it comes to the tech, like it's really good for us in terms of like younger people to, you know, order on our phones. Like the ordering on the phones was like so simple, so easy for me and Rick when we took them out. But I think, like, you know, we went to the pub for dinner and we had already ordered and paid and it was like done. You were like, well, what do we pay? We're like, no, we paid on the app. And it was just like, oh, how do we do this? Oh, there's an app for that. And I think it's really good to make that available to people, but maybe, I guess it depends on the space, and maybe it's not a place will determine for them if that's right for them, but maybe giving that option to also have like not just a digital QR code, because not everyone has that.
I also saw firsthand over the course of the month how much you've grown in this particular arena, not just with all of the tech stuff, because that's important, but with the actual product.
She literally, she saw things, but we don't have on video. She saw cupboards of shame. She saw.
Have you
I showed it.
You've seen the cupboard and the
I showed her the shed. I showed her the shed, and she like opened the fridge, and it was just all beer, and she was like, "Oh!" And then
no wonder you don't have room for a turkey.
We were making Thanksgiving, and she's like, "We just put it out in the fridge," and I was like, "No." Out to like the fridge shed, the shed fridge, and she like opened it. I was like, "This is the shed." And then she's like, oh, fridge. And she opened it. She's like, oh.
Here.
And then just shut it.
And then I went to open a cupboard. I said, because we got some new dishes, and
I had
went to
stouts.
put them away.
I had
one
bottles.
whole cupboard, all beer.
It was my bottles, my stout, my Sharon bottles and stuff.
Insane. But what that tells me is either she's a hoarder, but also I think it also tells me that she's developed a talent for something that I would not have expected. So that makes me happy.
Bit of column A, bit of column B.
And I don't know if it's because she's here that she needs to drink more. I don't think that's the case.
It's winter.
But what I love, and I think I said this to you at the beginning, and it means even more to me now, is I've seen the relationship she's developed and the community that she has. And it makes it easier for me to know she's here. I know she loves her husband. I know he loves her, all of that. But you need more than that.
But also plug for Mirakai, their crowdfunders out for it. If you want to see community, go fund the Mirakai crowdfunder. Done.
And preview, can I talk about?
Oh yeah, okay.
I watched her.
Literally, she's like breaking news, guys.
Breaking
let's finish this off with some breaking news.
Ooh.
So you know how most people buy advent calendars with little candies in the pockets, right?
Yeah.
Rick made it a point to tell me when he was a kid, he always liked the one that had 25 because that was an extra chocolate.
Yeah.
I watched this one wrap 24.
Don't get aggressive. 24
cans of beer in brown paper, and Rick has now numbered them all.
I let him number them.
And
it's a couples thing.
And this compulsive has put all of them in order by number.
So mine is literally over here. I did mine today as well, and Gordon numbered mine. But mine's not in order.
But how did you number it? Because you know what you wrapped up.
No, but I forget what
I know what I did, but I've forgotten because I wrapped it all in different paper and then put it all in different slots, and then Gordon's put different numbers on it. So I haven't got a clue what's going to come out when.
I wrapped him and then mushed them around.
Mushed them around.
And then I went, here's 24 stickers. Stick
them on. Yeah.
And then he did, and I went, I guess I put them in order now.
No, I didn't put them in order.
Remember for toffee, watch his in there. But it will be fun. I know that there's a little bit of variety. Yeah. Spoiler alert. My mum's given spoiler alert. Yep. I made a beer.
I made a DIY advent calendar.
I have some older stouts and stuff like that. That's been talking about, and I've been waiting, and they're longer shelf life because they're stouts, obviously. And I'm like, I need to find a reason to go and drink them, because you can drink the lighter non-stouts like all the time. Yeah. But I have put some other ones in there. You
put some big boys in there?
Yeah, and some Christmas themed ones in there. Just
nice.
Fun. And then Rick went, does that mean you're going to drink a beer every night?
Exactly.
And I was like,
I mean, not necessarily, but maybe.
Yeah, you could video each night and then put it together as a montage.
Well, I thought I'd try that. We'll see. We'll see how that
And she could do hers one every night, and then you could put the montage together.
I've already thought of that.
Oh, well, there you go.
May or may not happen. We don't know.
So this is the first alcoholic advent calendar I've seen.
Okay.
High five.
So I'm glad I could be your first.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be part of this. I will eagerly look forward to seeing this.
Thank you for joining us. It's been lovely.
We don't know. We'll figure it out.
I'm probably going to look at it and go, okay, let's not tell her. Let's not put this one out.
I mean, Tori won't know because I do the editing. I can make her say
I don't like seeing myself. Yeah.
She never watches it back. She puts a lot of trust in me that I won't make her look like an idiot. I don't.
I'm like, Joe, take my address out. You're like, you're gonna leave your address.
So just know that when I listen to this, I bought a little shower radio that hooks up to my phone.
Nice.
So I started listening to them. I actually put it on and
this is the martini kicking in. You don't need to know this. We'll cut this out.
No, you don't need to cut it out. And so now I kind of look forward to hearing them.
Nice.
However, I don't take that long a shower, so I actually have to finish to listen to it.
Yeah, because they're quite long.
Yeah, because they go long. Exactly.
Well, exciting times. Thank you for enlightening all of us. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Well, there you go.
Well, welcome to my mum.
Special guest, Tori's mum, enjoying the delights of the UK.
And the beer scene in the UK.
And the beer scene in the UK.
So yeah, get to learn everything about my mum in this episode, clearly. It was an interesting month. It was interesting to like take my parents round to the spots that I normally go to and like making a point to take them. And I didn't get to take them to everywhere that I wanted because it was like we were so busy running around going from place to place, and I was still working and Rick was still working. But I tried to get them to all the places I go to regularly because when I speak to them, I like to be like, oh, I was here. And now I want them to be able to like visualize it. Oh yeah, I went there. As my mom said, it was like sharing those places that I normally go to with her, as opposed to the places that they normally go to with me. So yeah, it was a fun experience. It was a fun month. So hopefully they'll come back and see more places.
It's interesting to like get the perspective of someone from outside the beer community on things. It's that whole like you have to have perspectives from a wide range of people, from all the people, because you're going to miss something otherwise. Like if you're just constantly tailoring it to the thing that you see or the thing that your regular people see, you're going to miss something, because then someone's going to go, oh, well, but wait, what about this? What about picnic benches? They're not as accessible as you think. Like
it's not even that,
little things like that.
It's not even people outside the community, it's people outside the community, but also like an older generation of people.
Different generations, different types of people from different backgrounds,
because
people with different thoughts on things.
100%, because you're going to think like if a younger person or someone even like, you know, middle-aged person, whatever, wants to go out to their favorite craft spot and they want to take their parents with them or whoever, elderly people, more older people with them, they might go, well, actually, I don't think it's a spot that they'll enjoy, or I don't think it's a spot that they can physically maneuver. Like I think that if it was just a case of like, oh, I don't think they'll like that spot, well then that's up to that individual. Like my mum said, no one held gone to her head to go into some of these places. She chose to. It's very different story to a, well, actually, I don't physically think they can get into that space. I think if you start saying, oh, there's lots of stairs, like, okay, sometimes you can't help that and that's how it is, but what can you help? You can help picnic benches versus normal benches or tables,
normal chairs.
You can help having an option if someone, I know your preferred option is using, you know, QR codes, but maybe have a handful of paper things that somebody can go and reference if they aren't QR code. So it's a look that it's interesting hearing her perspective on it, like you said, as someone that's not in beer and also as a person that is an older person who's maybe not the target demographic for some of these places, because I would have never thought about the picnic benches.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for indulging and letting my mum join, because I know it's been quite a busy month. So it was a good time. It's nice introducing you to my mum, and
I feel like I can send more packages to our house now.
No, you can send all the packages to your house and less guilt, no guilt.
Tori, if people want to ask you about picnic benches, where can they talk to you?
I feel like I owe Big Bench an apology because I kind of get it now. If you want to talk to me about any of that, or feel free. You can message me on Instagram. Check out my Instagram, adventures_in_hoptimism, or my Gmail, which is adventuresinhoptimism@gmail.com. Or if you want to get in touch with us from a podcast perspective at the email, it's a women's brew podcast@gmail.com. And I will probably be the first person to pick it up, but you could get Joe as well. Lucky dip. We'll see who's available that day.
I usually let her do the answering, but sometimes I like to hear.
It's the same thing. It's almost the same thing with the Instagram. It's like it's a women's brew on Instagram. So it's like lucky dip. Like normally on email you'll probably get me, and normally on Instagram you'll probably get Joe. But depending on the day and what people are doing, you might get the opposite. So
if I'm in the office, I get no signal. So good luck.
So you're definitely not getting Joe. If I've got my parents over and I'm in the middle of London or something,
neither of us are talking.
You're not getting me. Joe, if people want to talk to you about accessibility and picnic benches, where can they find you?
You can come talk to me at my beer school, which is Love Beer Learning, and we are on Facebook, Instagram, currently still on Twitter, but we'll see how that goes, TikTok and Pinterest. I also have a website, which is lovebeerlearning.co.uk, or you can email me lovebeerlearning@gmail.com. Don't forget, the podcast is also on YouTube as a Women's Brew podcast. So, on that note, cheers.